All righty. Last up in terms of customizing your text box. Um, now we need to format the text. So I'm just going to select all of my text. I just clicked and dragged to select all of my text. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is change the size. So notice I have a lot of space here under my text box. You don't want that much space, that much open space. So, well, actually, there's two things I could do here. Maybe I like the size of my text. If I like the size of my text, what I personally would do then would be to just kind of decrease the size of my text box so that it kind of fits more snugly around my text. And then if I wanted to, I could move it. In order to move the text box, sorry, I'm kind of like jumping around here, bear with me. In order to move the text box, you just have to hover over one of the borders. And then when your cursor turns into that crossbar looking object, that's telling you you can move it. And then all you have to do from there is click and drag. So that's one way. I'm going to hit Control Z a couple times to undo what I just did and get it back to how it was. Okay. Or I personally think that the text is too small here. It needs to be much bigger on this slide. So I'm actually going to increase the size of my text box some to make it fit more of the slide. And now I am going to select my font, and you can either manually type in the size that you want, or I usually just hit the plus sign and I just watch it until I feel like it's big enough. So I'm just going to keep hitting this plus sign a bunch of times, and now I've got my text in my box, in my text box, how the size that I want it. Something else you can do here, it's a lot of times in digital visuals like this, you want the text to have the same amount of space around the margins, around the text box. If you'll notice how there's like extra space down here at the bottom of my text box, and at the top there's not that same amount of space. Well, what you can do to fix that is, again, have your text box selected. Right here, the alignment option. There are two different ways that you can align this text. You can align it horizontally, which means left, center, right, or you can align it vertically, which means in the text box, vertically means you can align it to the top of the box, the middle of the box, the bottom of the box. So in this case, if I want to kind of get that space more evened out, I'm going to keep it left centered. Well, let me see what happens if I go center. Oh, and that only did the first one anyway. So I'm going to Control Z. I'm going to select all of my text. If I wanted to center the text, it would look like that. I don't really like it. I'm going to hit Control Z, go back to how it was. So this is the horizontal centering, and this is the vertical centering. I'm going to center it vertically so that the text is in the center of the box instead of at the top or the bottom. So notice now when I did that, that evened out the space. Now I have the same amount of space at the top of the box and the bottom of the box. Just makes it look more balanced in my mind. So if you want to, go ahead and pause me. Make sure your size is right, your text boxes fit snugly around your text, and your text is aligned appropriately in that text box. And then the next thing we're going to do is you can change the type of the font. So I'm going to start off by selecting all of the font, and that's going to be right here. By default, mine's on Arial. I don't know what yours is on, maybe Times New Roman, I have no idea. If you want to change that, you can click your drop down arrow, and when you look at the fonts, it gives you kind of an idea of what it'll look like should you choose it. But there are many options you can see here. You have a scroll. You can scroll your mouse gently down the screen, or you can even hit more fonts here and search more. I don't have time for all that. If you want to, you can spend a couple minutes. Don't spend a whole ton of time on this or else you're going to get behind. But I'm going to go ahead and just select Boogaloo. Oh, now look at that. When I selected Boogaloo, it completely changed the look of my text and how I had it in my text box. If that happens, you need to fix it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to resize it and make it fit better. All right, so go ahead and pause me now and choose a font type.